You want the hour and the hand that set it. It was the widow. Here is the chain that locks. First, the time. 8:17 was theater. The tall regulator's weight was mid-track, not near the floor, so it did not die on its own at 8:17. Its minute hand was braced with a sliver under the bezel. That is deliberate arrest, not mechanical failure. The carriage clock's minute hand also froze at 8:17, snapped clean. A tidy break that needs leverage, not panic. Whoever staged the room tried to launder a real window into a false one. Second, the siren. She anchored her story to 8 and a church meeting. The flood siren went at 7. The hall closed at 6. Her timeline leans on an event that did not exist, which means she needed cover between 7 and 9. Third, the hands that stilled the room. The mantel clock near the wall was moved, glass latched, pendulum cork wedged. Inside that glass were fresh left-hand smudges, narrow at the tips. The blind's pull string was retied with a left-biased knot. The backroom window latch wore the same kind of left-handed knot. Habits repeat. When she smoothed her dress, the pale strip where a ring had been flashed on her left ring finger. She had removed it recently. Before that, the ring edge left a telltale. The cork wedge in the mantel had a tiny bevel-shaped dent, the kind you get when a thin ring presses down hard instead of a bare finger stopping the pendulum gently. A clockman would never do it that way. A novice under stress would. Fourth, the orange oil. The counter's lip had a fresh smear. The mantel foot had the same sheen. Her right cuff carried it faint but present. You pick up that print by handling the counter and nudging a clock foot while dressing a scene. The apprentice had oil under his nails, but his cuffs were dust and brass, not citrus. The rival's chain had a whisper of oil because he later set something on the counter. Different transfer, different story. The landlord smelled like pipes and damp wool. No citrus shadow lived on him. Fifth, access and intent. The safe was opened and closed clean, no force. The ledger's top shelf had the clean rectangle of a missing watchbox. The engraved pocket watch tied to M to E, all my hours, was gone. The wrist of the dead man showed a warm compression curve where a watch had ridden all day, then was removed carefully. Not ripped in struggle, lifted after. Who knows the combination without leaving pry scars? The wife. Who removes a keepsake before blood can touch it? Not a break-in. Someone who wants the watch separate from the mess. Now place the others where they belong, not where their noise wants to sit. The apprentice lied small. Batteries, out all week, but a torn blister pack with 3 gone sat above his bench. He padded his competence and invented a knock to explain a 10-minute lag. A regulator would not grow from a nudge. He was rehearsed, scared, and too proud. He stopped clocks the right-wrong ways because he knows the tricks, but he did not need to stage 8:17. He had no leverage with insurance, no access to the safe, and no reason to build a theatrical time. His contradictions are the noise of youth under a homicide lamp, not the architecture of a murder. The landlord arrived with sawdust on his cuffs and copper on his thumb. He had the temperament to remove a door and the motive to squeeze rent. The front door plate had been reset in a hurry and misaligned. The stair baseboard had been planed down recently. Those speak to habit and shoddy repairs, not homicide. He talked insurance too fast because that is his native language, but he had no control over the safe and no reason to script a precise minute. If he'd blundered into violence over money, he leaves force marks and a simpler mess. His cough is a stall, not a clockmaker's lie. The rival jeweler brought his own glitter. His shoes were too dry, his ticket too clean. His right sole carried mainspring rosin, which puts him in the shop at some point that day. His chain smelled faintly of orange oil because a watch case touched a freshly dressed counter. He is a thief of opportunity. He did not have to kill to get the engraved watch once he found the room already broken. He only had to recognize it and palm it. He faked a train to be elsewhere because thieves always want 2 doors open. But he does not match the left-hand knots, the cork dent from a ring, or the need to backfill a domestic alibi with a church that never met. He is crooked on the edges of the night, not at its center. Return to the center. The widow lied about the meeting and the siren. She handled the clocks and handled them wrong. The left-handed knots repeat at 2 points in the room a stranger would not think to touch. The orange oil transfer maps her path from counter to mantel. The cork dent matches a ring edge. The ring mark on her finger shows it was on earlier. She removed the ring later to pivot herself from wife to widow before the uniformed men came up the stairs. She knew the regulator was 10 minutes off because she forced it out of phase. 10 minutes is a round lie spoken by someone who thinks precision is an alibi, not by a repairman who speaks in seconds. She had the combination to the safe and a reason to open it without leaving crow marks. She had the reason to remove the watch and keep it unsplashed. Money pressure from the landlord, pressure to sell the name from the rival, and a husband who would not bend the way she needed. Add a storm to mask footsteps, and a city knocked just enough off-grid for a calm room to feel abandoned. She believed she could compose the scene the way a window is dressed. She overcomposed it. Sequence then. No speculation, just order. Around 7:30 the shop closes. The storm builds. The apprentice is in back working the Becker regulator. The widow comes down. Voices rise. She reaches for the nearest heavy thing with clean edges, the carriage clock on the counter. The blow is short and brutal. He falls. Blood fans under the head. She breathes, then works. She sets the carriage minute hand to 8:17 and snaps it, because snapped looks accidental. She goes to the regulator, jams a sliver under the bezel to hold the minute hand at 8:17, then cork stops a mantle to thin the room's ticking. She is clumsy with the pendulum and presses with her left hand while her ring is still on, denting the cork. She moves the mantle a shade. The foot drags dust in a crescent and picks up orange oil from the counter she wiped moments earlier. She reties the blind pull she disturbed, left hand knot. She wipes a smear on the counter, picks up the same oil on her cuff. She opens the safe. She takes the engraved watch because it belongs to the marriage more than to the stock list. She removes her own ring upstairs, hesitates, pockets it. She builds the story. Church hall, charity, 8 o'clock siren. The story fits until a city schedule disagrees. After the body is already cooling, the rival steps through, called by habit or by chance. He smells opportunity. He lays a case on the counter, picks up a trace of oil, and pockets the Capel heirloom. He prints a ticket later so the papers will show mileage. The landlord barges in at last, makes noise about leaks and insurance, and leaves traces of his constant maintenance sins. The apprentice, who has seen the scene from the wrong end of right, panics into little lies that sound bigger than they are. What about the locked shop? The front door shows no pry. The back door was bolted within. A stranger needs a key or a hinge trick. The landlord owns hinges, but again, why stage 8:17? The widow needs neither hinge nor pry. She is already inside. The decisive pieces are not dramatic. They are craft mistakes. A staged minute on 2 clocks when the regulator's weight betrays it. A siren alibi that lands on a canceled bell. Left-hand knots in 2 different places a killer would not think matter unless those places belonged to her daily life. Orange oil mapping touch points between counter, clock, and cuff. A cork dent that only a ring would stamp, followed by the absence of that ring minutes later. A safe, opened by knowledge, not tools, with a sentimental watch removed before blood could touch it. These do not belong to the apprentice, the landlord, or the rival. They belong to the one person who could move freely, make domestic knots, open the safe, and overestimate how convincingly 8:17 would pass in a room that keeps better books on minutes than people do on lies. You can lace red herrings through that, and they tried. The landlord's misaligned screws and sawdust. The rival's dry shoes, fake ticket and rosin. The apprentice's batteries and bravado. They complicate the room, but they do not author it. Only one person had motive to claim the business's future, to stop a husband who would not sell, to convert a storm into a curtain, and to write an honest-looking time across a dishonest night. Arrest the widow. Recover the pocket watch from the rival. Charge him for the theft you can prove. Fine the landlord for the door and his code violations. Make him sit through insurance lectures until his cough clears. Send the apprentice home with his bad lies and a better sense of silence. Time keeps its own records. Tonight they are enough. Case closed. For now.